Hey, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hanging On to Hope podcast.
I'm Brenda J.
And I'm Katherine Wonder.
And we are HangingOnToHope.org.
This podcast is intended as educational and is not psychological or medical advice. Always consult a professional when needed, and we disclaim any liability in connection with the instruction, information, or advice given. Hello, this is Karen W., and thanks for tuning in to the Hanging On to Hope podcast. I'm so excited for today's guest. Today we're interviewing Katherine Warnock. She is the head of original content for The Chosen TV series. If you haven't heard or watched The Chosen series yet, you must be hiding under a rock, as it's grown very popular and started as a crowd-funded project that has become a global phenomenon, with episodes watched more than 407 million times. The show seeks to help viewers meet Jesus in an intimate, playful, authentic, and disruptive way. The series helps us all see Jesus from the perspective of those who met him and how those encounters could have played out. I have been hooked on this show from season 1, episode 1. Welcome to the show, Katherine.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks so much for being a part of our podcast today.
Continuing with part 2 of The Chosen, a Gen Z documentary with Katherine Warnock.
Stephen shared how his father died in their living room when he was 13 and watched him take his last breath. He also shared attempted suicide, and in the follow-up said that having them come together and watch The Chosen and all become close friends is what has kept him from going there. You can see that they all bonded together, so it was more than just a group of kids watching a show together. Did you want to elaborate on the bonding time that they all had?
It felt supernatural, but we did intentional things. Before they arrived in Utah to film and do the binging of season 1 together, we got everybody on a FaceTime, a Zoom call together so that they could meet each other and just kind of start getting the wiggles and the giggles out. We had some, the night they arrived, we had some good meal bonding time. We walked them through the soundstage. We walked them through everything. They all got some really good time with me. And so they all had like the same connective relationship with me that bridged to themselves. And then, like I said, we intentionally casted individuals that you could tell were very community driven. We're very relationally driven and welcoming, of just really engaging with people. And we knew Chris in particular, we cast because we said, he's going to be the one that's going to he'll be the godfather of sorts. He'll immediately pull everyone together, make them feel super comfortable, really start asking them really good questions, and then they'll all immediately feel disarmed and ready to engage. And that's exactly what Chris did. The moment he arrived, he immediately started pulling everyone in, asking them questions, going deep. And so it was really fun to see, okay, our discernment on each one of them held very true to form, which was really amazing.
My heart also went out to Josephine and her relationship with her parents being strained. It seems to me like she was able to see by watching The Chosen a sense of longing that she missed from her relationship with God. Do you have any ongoing contact with her and the rest of the group?
I mean, she's doing great. Through The Chosen, it actually opened up a lot of further healing, I should say, between her and her mom, and just deeper honesty. And then it just has Josephine. I think she's just on a really beautiful journey of just, she went into the blind experiment going, I kind of had to hide my faith and let it go because it didn't match with, my queerness, which is the other most important thing to me. So through the experience, she's now back to fully engaging with Jesus and on this journey of what does this look like? What does this look like? She's talking to her friends about it and she's wrestling with it. And I think that's a really beautiful journey to be on.
Yeah, and I love how she said, now I'm going to, now it's time to study and dig in. And I thought that was great.
Yeah, she's remarkable. All of them are so intelligent. But Josephine, the complexities of, a lot of what the documentary doesn't even cover are a lot of the complexities of which she had to journey through in her life and to this day. And I'm just so impressed by her. I'm so impressed by all of them, how they showed up for something that's incredibly vulnerable. and not in alignment with many of their worldviews at all. That's hero status in my book.
It is. That's very, very brave of all of them to do that.
So we did not get a background on Chris. He said he was Catholic and only went to church about once a year, and he was not at the follow-up show. Any updates on him?
Yeah, unfortunately, he couldn't make it to the follow-up. He was stranded in Bali. His passport had he was set to fly, and then his passport had gotten stolen. I think it was a night or two before he was meant to fly, which is really sad. So he'll be joining us for our reunion coming up, which is really exciting. But he's thriving. He's, has a thriving business. He's doing great. Chris intentionally didn't go deep on camera, and we honored that. And we told them all, whatever you give us on camera, we will stay true to. And so we saw Chris at the very beginning pulling everyone together, and we didn't get tons of his backstory. His parents went through a pretty nasty divorce when he was a teenager, and he's just, he went down a pretty dark path. And then from there, he just chose to live every day to the fullest and just, be a beacon of kindness and unity in the world. And that is true to form. That is who Chris is everywhere he goes. He's a really special guy.
I love Emma, and my heart went out to the dysfunction she was brought up with and divorced parents and a traumatizing sister. She seemed to be the one most touched by watching the show. Adrian also had a special moment with Jonathan Rumi where he told him that God was pulling on him. He seemed very moved by that and quite changed. Oh, did you see the change in them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm now discipling Emma. She's, going to church, listening to sermons, diving in. She's remarkable. She's very, very hungry. But, her life has been very difficult, and she's risen above it all. She has an amazing boyfriend, Max, who's just truly remarkable. And so she's, for the first time in her life, living outside of abuse, which is really extraordinary.
Wow. Yeah.
And then Adrian, he's on an amazing journey. I love him. I love how he'll now say, Jesus is definitely in my heart. And he's winning, as you saw very clearly in the conversation with Jonathan, believing in many gods in terms of pagan worship. And then from there, he's just now wrestling with do I believe in one God or many gods? And he's just, he's one of the first, he and Ben are always the two first to be I'm there. Where are we going? You just tell me where I need to be and I'll be there. We're family now, which is really quite remarkable.
Yeah.
Both of their personalities too. So.
Yeah, I love in that follow-up when they just all talked about how they became vulnerable and sharing their stories and having a voice, how it just brought healing to them. And that's the whole why we started the podcast and told our stories and let others tell their stories, because we do have a segment called Real People, Real Voices, where we allow people to tell their story. It's so healing for the listeners, for the watchers, for the viewers, and for that person. And then to have them be in a group, like a lot of our podcasts that we've done, we interview a lot of trauma therapists and authors. And, they realize that being in groups is the most healing beyond therapy.
That's amazing.
Like being in a group therapy, like Celesta Tracy, who wrote Mending the Soul. She's been a therapist for 20 years, right? And she said that she realized that the most healing came from the groups. And that's how Karen and I met, was the Mending the Soul group.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that's what impacted me a lot on that follow-up, was just how amazing that was. Jordan shared the struggle to try to fit in, and Audrey shared that she had struggled with suicidal thoughts. We had Mary DeMuth on our show, and we talk about her book, Love, Pray, and Listen, about the importance of being there for our adult children who struggle with life and how hard it is to navigate our world today as a young person. Anything you want to share about their stories?
I love that they're all such fighters. And I think it should really be eye-opening the degree to which the commonality we saw in these 9 Gen Zers from all over the world, all different backgrounds. They had such similarities in many of them raised in abuse, many of them struggling with suicidal ideation, mental health issues, just how rampant not only trauma, but also mental health and suicidal ideation is. And I think that is where I start getting I get my heart thumping and my heart burning for just, okay, how, and, from where I sit, there's only one answer to that. There's only one true uprooting answer. And it takes the church showing up. It takes individuals like both of you showing up and just bringing our loaves and our fish and saying, for me, I'm okay, I have trauma in my background. I have abuse in my background. Jesus has helped me profoundly overcome that. So how do I now weaponize that to bring others into healing, to bring others into transformation? And so that is my life mission. I'm like, yep, I have a really amazing job. I work in Hollywood. I get to be part of this extraordinary global phenomenon show. But the true work that I'm most passionate about is how do I weaponize my traumatic history for the betterment of people? How do I turn that into a lethal weapon that brings people from ashes to beauty with obviously the help of the Lord? But that's my number one goal in life.
Yeah, and that's why one of the things, like we were saying, because God uses what you've been through to help other people.
Yes.
Right. And we were at an event last night for Winged Hope, and they're also in advocacy. They do a lot with domestic violence victims. And Jessica Nicely, who is the founder, she was sharing how it's a 1-year anniversary of, I think is it Miss America that committed suicide a year ago?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And it's like you look at people even that you wouldn't think would struggle with something like that. And she's like, it's so important that we check in on each other. And even people that look like they have it all together don't.
Yes.
I mean, nobody has it all together, truly. We all struggle with different things, and just being able to check in and say, how are you doing? And just that importance, because our society is so fragmented that it's just all the more important to make the time to check in with each other. So how are you involved in the Chosen series apart from the documentaries, or involvement with that as well?
Yeah, so I oversee a number of different verticals. So I help to build out the Chosen Universe. We're in development on a number of new television shows to build out Chosen Universe. So I'm overseeing that. I help to manage the cast. We do everything from productions like Feeding of the 5,000 through to theatrical releases, theatrical premieres. I also oversee original content. So we have a number of documentary series in the works with the cast. We just wrapped up one with Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus. We took him all over the world as he just grappled with, what it means to play Jesus, to get stopped on the street all day long with people going, Jesus, and Jesus' impact on culture as a Christian himself. And we're taking all the cast to Israel later in the year. So we're deep in creative development on that. I also oversee PR. So I oversee a lot. I have a lot of spinning plates. I'm always very busy, but I have an extraordinary team that makes it all possible.
That's great.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Israel again, I went to Israel a long time ago. It was like before I had my kids, so 26 years ago. So I want to go back though. So
yes, it's a place that gets in your bones and never lets go.
I know it calls your name. So
yes,
go back.
Yeah. How has The Chosen and being involved in the documentary impacted your own faith?
Yeah, no, great question. Honestly, it made me really see Gen Z for the first time, like really see Gen Z and understand in a whole new way the levels of trauma and the willingness of a generation to engage that trauma and overcome it. That I don't think many of the other generations that have gone before them have been able to do to the same degree. So I think we underestimate Gen Z, and I think we're overcritical on Gen Z. And so that's been really fun for me to go, okay, it allowed immense hope to blossom in my heart for the next generation instead of doom, to be honest. So, and we've had many people write in. There's a really well-known faith leader. She was well known to just be deeply, profoundly critical of the younger generations and the LGBTQ community in particular. And she watched Gen Z, and there was her heart was absolutely broken for Gen Z in a beautiful way, where she saw them. She really saw them, and she was left with nothing but love for Gen Z. And so it's like the criticalness just completely washed away, and in its place, just such a love for this generation and what this generation is having to grapple with. And I think it was Josephine that said it best in the trailer for the documentary. She said, no other generation has had to make as many decisions as we've had to make. We get to choose where we live. We get to choose our job. We get to choose our identity, our sexuality, our gender. We have all of these decisions that we're now told we get to make that no other generation has had to grapple with. And I think that's really fair. I think that's really fair. Yeah. And that's a lot for young kids that are growing into young adults to grapple with. I know if I would have had to make life altering decisions at a very young age, I would be a very different person right now.
Yeah.
And I would have had to walk through some different hardships and perhaps triumphs than I have now. So I think for me, those are the testimonies we keep hearing of the older generations, millennials like myself included, going, okay, we got Gen Z wrong, and they're actually quite amazing. So I have immense hope for Gen Z.
That's great. Me too. And I think that it's just so important that anyone you disagree with, because we live in, like I said, such a divisive world that just people that maybe have an extremely different opinion than you, once you start talking and actually, having a conversation instead of like judging each other, you could find that there is more in common than you think,
Yes.
So I think the conversations you need to get to know people instead of just making that judgment about someone.
Yes.
So we're saving one of our best questions for last. All of us women with crushes on Jonathan Rumi, and I'm sure there are lots because I have a crush on him, and I don't know any woman that doesn't. And I loved his speech that he made about the March for Life. That speech was so powerful, and it was so anointed, and it was so great. Everything he said. So we want to know: is he really married?
He's not married. No, he is not married. There was a bit of a rumor and people started, press started running with it, but no, Jonathan is not married.
Wow. There's like a video and I'm like, it shows, like they could keeping it secret. I'm like, well, he must be
keeping
it secret because, all right, that gives us women hope. Not that we have a chance. He's amazing.
He is. He's truly remarkable. We love Jonathan.
Seriously, my favorite episode, my personal favorite episode is The Woman at the Well. And I was watching the interview he did with Dallas after that show, and he said that wasn't scripted, even that he got teary-eyed into that scene. And I'm like, that's what makes him, you can tell he takes it very seriously and his own face influences him. And that's so obvious,
Yes.
Watch it that he does that. So that's
what's really interesting is Jonathan he's a method actor in the most traditional sense. And could you imagine being a method actor and you're playing Jesus? So method actor is where you let the character so embody you. And so add to that he's a Christian. He has the Holy Spirit living in him. And so many of these profound moments that are not scripted come out in his acting. Because not only is he a brilliant actor, who's method acting as Jesus, but he's also in love with Jesus. And so to see that relationship so tangibly displayed, gosh, man, was Jonathan born for a time such as this?
He was, because he just plays that compassion that I think all of us need to see that, because that's where you feel like, is God mad at me? And you just see that compassion that he has for the woman at the well and, all of the scenes he has. That's what we all long for. It's like, does God see me and know everything I did and still love me? Like the woman at the well. And it's like, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just think the most powerful thing and what we've learned in all the podcasts we've done is the truth will set you free. And I think that was one of the most important takes from the Gen Z watching The Chosen in those interviews is as they began to tell the truth, because the lies that the devil speaks of, you shouldn't say anything, you shouldn't talk about what happened to you. That's all a lie, because you begin to heal as you talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I thought
bring it into the light. That's so good. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're huge fans of The Chosen. We're so grateful for being able to interview you about the series and this special documentary. Anything else that you'd want to share?
I just want to thank you for the support. I want to thank you for the work that you are both doing. It is so important and so needed, and just such fans of all that you guys have been through and what you've overcome. Many people are following in your wake. So I bless you as you keep going. I bless your listeners. And we just thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Well, thank you again so much for being on the show. I've already kind of shared a lot about what I had already said, but I also love the follow-up season 3. I've got my tickets to go see
Yay!
2 episodes of this season. And I love the interview with Nick Vujicic. We're hoping to get him on the show too, because I saw him in person. He's very incredible.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And he's fantastic.
I cried his entire interview.
Yeah, and wait in line when he goes to speak. People wait in line just to hug him, because he's just he's always talking about, I'd love to give hugs. And so I just love what he had to share about, his watching that episode. I think it was episode 2 of season 3, which that whole scene with James is so powerful. And I love that they interviewed him and how God is being glorified through him who doesn't have any arms and legs. It's such an incredible story. So I love how they bring those interviews in to kind of encouragement to watch it.
Yes. And we're about to roll out an interview between Jonathan and Dallas that is just so powerful. So that will be coming out in the Chosen app very soon.
Oh, wow.
And that is one that you will not want to miss. It was a very powerful interview. We just filmed it last week, which is really exciting.
Oh, that's great. So lots of good things coming. Yeah, that was my next question. Any glimpses you want to give us of what's coming ahead? I'm sure there's more things coming.
Yes. No, I think we have a lot of plot twists and surprises built in for the theatrical that premieres on February 2nd and 3rd. And then shortly thereafter, it will be in the app, the Chosen app and at thechosen.tv. But so you won't want to miss those because we're going to rock some worlds with what's coming on episodes 7 and 8 of season 3. So I hope that you and your audience will join us in celebrating the goodness of God.
Yeah, I can't wait. I love seeing it in the theater too. I mean, it's great to watch it at home or on your iPad or whatever, but there is something really supernatural about seeing it on the
and just to be together, as you mentioned earlier. I think there's such a different experience that comes when you're with a community that all is loving the same thing. It's a really special experience to do it together, for like the Chosen fans to come together and watch. I'll be there. I'm watching it. My husband and my friends and I, we're going on opening night, because I love it just as much, just to be together watching it.
You bond with even people you don't know that are sitting next to you that are watching.
Yes.
You know that they're, you hear their sniffles, they're being touched by it as much as you are.
Yes.
So it's a bonding experience.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And I just thank you so much for what you do. Like, I'm getting emotional, and I don't get emotional, but I'm just amazed at how it's changed me and drawn me so much closer to God. So I am so grateful for you and what you do. I mean, I don't have anything else to say but that. And did you want to share where listeners can find you and if they want to follow you?
Oh, goodness. That's so kind. I'm on Instagram, Katherine Warnock. Just simple. Katherine Warnock, Katherine Warnock, WARN as in Nancy, OCK.
Yes, and get the Chosen app.
I'm often sharing a lot of really fun behind the scenes things on my stories, if that is of any interest to anybody.
Yeah, I like those little snaps of hints behind the scenes.
Yeah, because I'm always the one working on the forward projects that haven't been released yet. So it's like, a little glimpse into what you're going to see in a year, which is quite fun. I loved it. I had such a great time with you both. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, God is good.
Have a lovely day. I appreciate it.
You too. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Hanging On to Hope. Check out our website, hangingontohope.org. There are resources on there, and if you would like to donate or volunteer, you can do that through our website. We are a brand new nonprofit, so we appreciate any and all support. And we thank you for listening, and until next time, keep hanging on to hope. We are evidence that there is hope and healing for you, and our passion is to help you find it too. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening, everyone.